Emotional immaturity isn't just about age. You can meet a 21-year-old woman who carries herself with grace, wisdom, and accountability, and you can meet a 35-year-old woman who throws tantrums like a child. Emotional immaturity shows up in patterns, and when it goes unchecked, it makes relationships exhausting and toxic. Now, I want to be clear. This is not about bashing women or painting them as villains. The truth is, men and women alike can be emotionally immature. But as a man, you need to recognize when a woman you're dating, pursuing, or even committed to is displaying these traits, because ignoring them could cost you your peace, your mental health, and even years of your life. So today, I'm breaking down 7 signs a woman is emotionally immature. And as I go through these, I want you to think about your past relationships, or even the current one you're in, and ask yourself, is she truly ready for love, or is she still stuck in a cycle of emotional adolescence? Let's start with the first sign. Sign 1. She can't regulate her emotions. A glaring sign of emotional immaturity in a woman is her inability to regulate her emotions. What does that look like? It's when small disagreements spiral into explosive arguments. When instead of communicating, she shuts down, gives you the silent treatment, or lashes out in a way that feels disproportionate to the situation. See, emotional regulation is a hallmark of maturity. Adults understand that feelings are valid, but actions are choices. A mature woman can feel angry without screaming at you. She can feel hurt without trying to punish you. She can feel disappointed without tearing you down. But an emotionally immature woman? Her feelings run the show. She feels something, and she reacts immediately, like a toddler throwing a tantrum because she didn't get her way. Examples of this behavior. She yells or curses at you in public over something minor. She stonewalls you for days instead of calmly expressing what upset her. She breaks up with you impulsively after an argument, only to come back once she cools down. She manipulates your emotions by crying uncontrollably, guilt-tripping, or exaggerating situations. I once heard from a man who said, "My girlfriend and I got into a small argument about what movie to watch. I suggested something she didn't like, and she exploded, calling me selfish, storming out of the apartment, and not speaking to me for 3 days. Later, she acted like nothing happened." Now, let's be real. This is not about movies. This is about her inability to regulate disappointment and frustration. Instead of processing her emotions internally and expressing them constructively, she lets them explode outward like a grenade, damaging the relationship in the process. The psychology behind it. Emotional immaturity often stems from unhealed wounds. Maybe she grew up in a family where conflict meant chaos, yelling, or neglect. Maybe no one ever taught her healthy coping strategies. Instead of learning self-soothing or rational expression, she learned to express emotions in their rawest, most unfiltered form, which can be destructive in adult relationships. But here's the harsh truth. You are not her therapist. While empathy is important, you can't become the emotional punching bag for someone who refuses to manage her own feelings. Why it's dangerous in a relationship. Because when someone doesn't regulate their emotions, you begin to walk on eggshells. You think twice before speaking your mind. You start hiding your feelings just to avoid triggering a meltdown. That's not love, that's emotional hostage-taking. A relationship where you're afraid of her reaction isn't safe. It's suffocating. What to do if you notice this sign? Stay calm in the storm. Don't match her energy. If she screams, don't scream back. If she gives you the silent treatment, don't beg. Set boundaries. Say, "I want to talk about this, but not while we're yelling. Let's take a break and come back when we're calmer." Observe patterns. One bad day doesn't make her emotionally immature. But if drama and meltdowns are the norm, that's who she is right now. And here's the key point. Don't get fooled by the cycle of drama and reconciliation. Immature women can be very affectionate after blowing up, and that honeymoon after the storm can make you think the relationship is passionate. But passion without stability is chaos dressed up as love. A woman who can't regulate her emotions will keep you in a cycle of highs and lows, where love feels like walking through a minefield. And let me tell you this, real love shouldn't feel like survival. If her emotions control her, sooner or later, they'll control you too. Sign 2. She plays games. Now, let's talk about a classic sign of emotional immaturity that a lot of men overlook at first because, honestly, it can be confusing. She plays games. And I don't mean fun, flirty games that build attraction. I mean manipulative games that leave you second-guessing yourself, your place in her life, and the relationship as a whole. What this looks like in practice. She ignores your texts on purpose, not because she's busy, but because she wants you to chase harder. She flirts with other men to make you jealous and test your reaction. She gives you mixed signals, hot one day, cold the next, so you're never sure where you stand. She withholds affection or intimacy as a punishment. She says things like, "If you really loved me, you'd do X," turning love into a bargaining chip. I once had a viewer who said, "I feel like I'm constantly being tested. My girlfriend will post half-naked pictures online but ignore my compliments, then act upset if I don't blow up her phone with reassurance. It's like she's playing this invisible game that I never signed up for." And let me tell you, he's not alone. Emotionally immature women use games to feel powerful, validated, and in control. But here's the truth. People who are secure and emotionally mature don't need to test love. They simply trust it. Why does she play games? Simple. Insecurity. At her core, she doesn't trust love to stand on its own, so she creates scenarios to prove it. If you pass the test, she feels safe for a little while. If you fail, she spirals. Another reason? Control. Immature women often believe love is a battlefield where the one with more power wins. So instead of creating a partnership, she creates a competition. Why this is a problem in relationships? Because love is not supposed to be a chess match. You shouldn't have to decode messages, prove yourself through constant tests, or compete for basic respect. When she plays games, the relationship becomes exhausting instead of fulfilling. Over time, you'll feel drained. Instead of growing closer, you'll grow paranoid, always waiting for the next test. And when you live in constant test mode, your authenticity disappears. You stop being yourself and start being the version of you she wants to manipulate. That's not love. That's control dressed up as romance. Men, listen closely. If a woman constantly puts you in positions where you have to earn her basic respect, affection, or trust through mind games, that's not emotional maturity. That's emotional warfare. How to handle it. Don't engage in the games. If she ignores your texts on purpose, don't double text and feed the pattern. Respond when it feels natural, or not at all if you see the manipulation clearly. Call out the behavior calmly. Say, "I feel like you're testing me instead of trusting me. If you want to talk about what you need, I'm here. But I'm not going to play guessing games." Detach from toxic dynamics. If the games become the foundation of the relationship, you need to walk away. Healthy love doesn't make you paranoid. A woman who plays games is showing you that she's not ready for real intimacy. Because intimacy requires honesty, not manipulation. And if you allow her games to continue unchecked, you'll end up losing yourself trying to win something that was never real to begin with. Sign 3. She's self-centered and lacks empathy. Another powerful sign that a woman is emotionally immature is that she's incredibly self-centered. The world revolves around her, her needs, her feelings, her desires, and everyone else comes second. Including you. And the scary part? She may not even realize she's doing it. What this looks like in real life. Conversations are always about her. If you try to share your struggles, she quickly shifts the focus back to herself. She rarely asks you how you're doing. And if she does, it's surface level. She doesn't listen deeply. She interrupts, talks over you, or dismisses your feelings as overreacting. If she makes a mistake, she rarely apologizes, because in her mind, she's always the victim. When you're sick, stressed, or exhausted, she expects you to still show up for her. But when you need her, she's nowhere to be found. A guy wrote to me. He said, and I quote, "When I got laid off from work, I told my girlfriend I was scared about finances. Instead of comforting me, she said, 'Well, you better find another job fast because I'm not about to downgrade my lifestyle.' That's when I realized she didn't care about me. She only cared about what I could provide." That, my friends, is the ugly truth of self-centeredness. It's not partnership. It's exploitation. The psychology behind it. Empathy is the ability to step into someone else's shoes and feel with them. It's what separates healthy adults from children. Because children, developmentally, are naturally self-centered. They don't yet understand that other people's needs matter too. An emotionally immature woman often gets stuck in that childlike ego state. She sees life through the lens of, "How does this affect me?" What can I get out of this? How do I make sure I don't feel uncomfortable? This lack of empathy makes relationships one-sided. And here's the kicker, you might pour into her endlessly, hoping she'll finally get it and reciprocate. But the truth is, until she chooses to grow, she won't. Why this is dangerous in relationships? When she's self-centered. 1. You feel unseen and unheard. Your needs never make it to the table. 2. You end up overgiving. You keep trying harder, hoping she'll appreciate you. But she doesn't, because in her mind, that's just your role. 3. Resentment builds. Slowly, you start to feel used. And once resentment sets in, love erodes. 4. You start to shrink. Instead of being your full self, you minimize your needs to avoid being labeled as too much. A relationship without empathy is like a plant without water. It looks okay at first, but eventually, it withers. Love requires empathy. Without it, what you really have isn't love. It's convenience. And convenience will never nourish your soul the way real connection does. How to handle it? Pay attention early. Notice if she actually listens when you talk, or if she just waits for her turn to speak. Test reciprocity. Ask for small things. Does she show up for you? Or does she make excuses? Communicate your needs. Sometimes people don't realize they're being self-focused. Say, when I share something important, I'd love for you to listen fully. Don't overcompensate. If you keep pouring into her without getting anything back, you're training her to stay self-centered. Decide wisely. If she shows no interest in growth or empathy, understand this, she is telling you who she is. Believe her. Men, please understand this. Love is not about one person constantly taking and the other constantly giving. A mature woman knows that empathy is the glue that keeps love alive. But if she's stuck in her own world, if she can't step outside herself long enough to truly see you, then brother, you're not in a partnership. You're in a performance, and the only role you play is making sure she feels good. And that's not love. That's a trap. Sign 4. She avoids responsibility and accountability. This one might be the biggest red flag of all. An emotionally immature woman avoids responsibility and accountability at all costs. In other words, nothing is ever her fault. What this looks like in real life. When she hurts your feelings, she says, "You're just too sensitive," instead of apologizing. If she forgets something important, she blames stress, work, or even you for not reminding her. When she lashes out, she excuses it by saying, "That's just how I am, deal with it." She plays the victim constantly. Life happens to her, never through her. In fights, instead of saying, "You're right, I overreacted," she flips it around. "Well, if you hadn't done XYZ, I wouldn't have reacted that way." A guy said, and I quote, "Whenever I confronted my girlfriend about something she did, she'd immediately get defensive and start listing my mistakes instead. I realized I was in a constant cycle of defending myself while she never once owned up to anything. I felt like I was arguing with a wall." That's accountability avoidance in action. It's exhausting. The psychology behind it. Accountability is a hallmark of adulthood. Mature women can say, "I messed up. I'm sorry. Here's how I'll do better." But emotionally immature women stay trapped in defense mode. Why? Because taking responsibility feels like admitting weakness. And to them, weakness equals shame. So they'd rather deny, deflect, or project than face themselves. It's emotional self-protection, but it kills relationships. Why this is dangerous in relationships. 1. Conflict never gets resolved. If she never owns her mistakes, problems just repeat. 2. You become the scapegoat. Somehow, everything is always your fault, even things you didn't do. 3. Emotional safety disappears. You can't be honest with someone who twists everything back onto you. 4. Growth is impossible. Without accountability, there is no change. And without change, the relationship stagnates. Let me say this clearly. Love requires humility. Humility to admit when you're wrong, to apologize, and to make it right. Without accountability, love can't grow. It just dies under the weight of pride and blame. How to handle it? Call it out calmly. Say, "I'm not blaming you, I just need you to take responsibility for your part." Notice patterns. If she never apologizes, that's not by accident, that's a choice. Protect your peace. Don't get trapped in cycles of endless defense. Step back when conversations turn into blame games. Ask yourself the hard question. Can you build a future with someone who refuses to grow? Gentlemen, accountability is love in action. A woman who avoids responsibility is showing you that she's more invested in protecting her ego than protecting the relationship. And if you stay in that dynamic too long, you'll lose yourself trying to carry the weight of two people. Don't do it. Choose a woman who can say, "I was wrong. I'm sorry. I'll do better." Because that's not weakness, that's strength. Sign 5. She avoids deep conversations about the relationship. What this looks like in real life. You bring up where the relationship is going, and she instantly changes the subject. You ask her about commitment, and suddenly she's too tired to talk. Maybe you share your feelings, and she laughs it off, saying, "Why are you being so serious?" In real life, avoidance looks like deflecting, making jokes when things get serious, walking away from conversations, or even picking fights to derail the topic. It's like every time you try to build emotional depth, she takes a detour. The psychology behind it. Why does this happen? Many emotionally immature women struggle with emotional vulnerability. Opening up requires honesty, self-awareness, and courage, things she might not have developed yet. Psychologists often link this to avoidant attachment styles, where someone fears intimacy because it exposes their weaknesses. Sometimes, it stems from unresolved trauma, family dynamics where emotions weren't valued, or simply lack of relationship experience. To her, deep talks feel threatening, because they force accountability, commitment, and emotional growth. Why this is dangerous in relationships. Here's the thing, a relationship without communication is a house built on sand. When she avoids deep talks, problems get swept under the rug instead of solved. Resentment builds, because your needs are unheard. The relationship stays stuck in a shallow cycle of fun today, broken tomorrow. Without those conversations, you can't plan a future, resolve conflicts, or feel secure. It becomes a relationship of guessing games, where you're never sure where you stand. And that lack of clarity slowly kills intimacy. How to handle it. 1. Stay calm but firm, don't beg or force. Let her know conversations are non-negotiable in healthy love. Example, if we can't talk about real things, this won't work for me. 2. Set boundaries. If she constantly shuts down, decide how much of that you're willing to accept. 3. Model the behavior. Share your feelings openly without shame. Sometimes seeing you do it encourages her to try. 4. Don't settle for surface-level love. If she refuses to grow, understand that her avoidance is a sign she's not ready for the kind of relationship you want. And that's your cue to step back. Bottom line. Avoiding deep conversations is not about keeping things light. It's a sign she's emotionally immature, afraid of vulnerability, and not ready to build a strong, lasting connection. Sign 6. She can't handle criticism or feedback. What this looks like in real life. In real life, this sign shows up in very obvious but frustrating ways. Imagine this, you calmly say to her, "Babe, I felt a little disrespected when you made that joke about me in front of your friends." Instead of listening, she immediately snaps back, "Oh, so now I can't even joke? You're just too sensitive." Or maybe you point out something small like, "Hey, you forgot to lock the door when you left." Rather than acknowledging it, she gets defensive. "Why are you always criticizing me? You never notice what I do right." In short, any attempt at correction, no matter how kind or constructive, is met with defensiveness, denial, or deflection. Instead of addressing the issue, she'll shift the blame back onto you, or worse, shut down and give you the silent treatment. The psychology behind it. Why does this happen? At the core, it's usually about ego fragility and fear of accountability. Emotionally immature women tend to equate criticism with rejection. Instead of seeing it as feedback about their behavior, they internalize it as an attack on who they are. Psychologists often link this to upbringing. If someone grew up in an environment where mistakes were punished harshly or where love felt conditional, they develop an almost survival-level resistance to being wrong. In their mind, being criticized equals being unworthy or unloved. So, when you bring up even the smallest concern, her nervous system goes into fight or flight mode. She lashes out, fight, or shuts down, flight, because she's emotionally unequipped to process constructive feedback. Why this is dangerous in relationships. This trait is extremely toxic for long-term relationships. Here's why. 1. No room for growth. Relationships thrive on accountability. If one partner can never be corrected, the relationship becomes lopsided. You'll grow, but she won't. 2. Walking on eggshells. Over time, you'll feel silenced. You'll think twice before expressing your feelings because you know it'll blow up into drama. That builds resentment. 3. Blame shifting and gaslighting. Instead of taking responsibility, she'll flip it on you. That creates a cycle where you constantly feel guilty just for having basic needs. 4. Emotional burnout. Constantly managing someone else's fragile ego is draining. You'll find yourself exhausted, emotionally and mentally, just trying to keep the peace. At its core, this is dangerous because a relationship without honest feedback is a relationship that can't evolve. Love without accountability eventually withers. How to handle it. Now, if you notice this in a woman you're dating, here's how you should handle it. 1. Deliver feedback gently but clearly. Don't attack her character. Instead of saying, "You're careless," say, "I feel uneasy when the door is left unlocked." Frame it around your feelings and specific actions, not her identity. 2. Watch how she responds. A mature woman might be uncomfortable, but she'll reflect and circle back later. An immature one will deflect, deny, or explode every single time. That pattern tells you everything you need to know. 3. Set boundaries. If every honest conversation turns into chaos, you need to decide how much energy you're willing to keep investing. Boundaries aren't ultimatums, they're self-protection. For example, I won't continue conversations where I'm attacked for expressing my feelings. 4. Decide if it's worth it. The truth is, you can't force emotional maturity on someone. If she's unwilling to learn how to take feedback, the relationship will remain stuck. Sometimes the best handling is simply walking away. A woman who can't handle criticism or feedback is not protecting her relationship, she's protecting her ego. But in doing so, she prevents growth, blocks intimacy, and drains both of you. If you want a healthy, lasting partnership, you need someone who can look in the mirror, admit flaws, and grow alongside you. Because at the end of the day, love can't survive without accountability. Sign 7. She seeks validation from everyone but you. What this looks like in real life. Picture this, you give her a heartfelt compliment, "You look gorgeous today," and she brushes it off with a, "You always say that." But the moment a random coworker or a stranger at a party tells her the same thing, she lights up like it's the first time anyone's ever said it. Or maybe you reassure her about her career decisions, telling her she's talented and capable. Instead of taking your words seriously, she runs off to her girlfriends, posts about it on social media, and basks in the validation from likes and comments. In simple terms, no matter how much reassurance, affection, or affirmation you provide, it never seems to be enough, unless it's coming from someone else. The psychology behind it. This behavior usually stems from deep-rooted insecurity and externalized self-worth. Emotionally immature women often struggle to build internal confidence. Instead, they rely on outside voices to define their value. Your compliments or support don't hold weight because they're too close. In her mind, you're supposed to say those things, so they don't count. There's also a subtle psychological payoff here. External validation feels more exciting because it feeds her ego in a way that feels unpredictable. She knows you care, but when others affirm her, it feels like she's winning a prize. Sometimes, this traces back to childhood. If she grew up constantly seeking approval, whether from parents, peers, or authority figures, she never developed a secure internal sense of worth. So as an adult, she keeps chasing validation like a drug. Why this is dangerous in relationships. On the surface, it might just look like harmless attention-seeking, but in relationships, this can be a ticking time bomb. 1. You'll never be enough. No matter how much love and affirmation you give, it will feel like pouring water into a bucket with holes. That's draining over time. 2. Attention outside the relationship. If she needs constant validation, she may flirt, overshare, or cross boundaries with other men just to get that ego boost. 3. Comparison and disrespect. When she values strangers' opinions over yours, it minimizes your role as her partner. That imbalance breeds resentment. 4. Opens the door to infidelity. seeking validation is often a gateway to emotional or physical cheating. If she craves external approval more than the bond you share, she's vulnerable to chasing it wherever she can find it. How to handle it. If you notice she's always chasing validation from everyone but you, here's how to handle it. 1. Observe, don't excuse. Don't gaslight yourself into thinking you're overreacting. If she consistently dismisses your support but craves it from others, that's a real pattern of immaturity. 2. Communicate clearly. Let her know how it makes you feel when she ignores your reassurance but thrives on outside praise. Use I statements. I feel sidelined when my encouragement doesn't carry weight, but others' words do. 3. Check her response. A mature woman will pause, reflect, and at least attempt to meet you halfway. An emotionally immature one will either dismiss your feelings or accuse you of being insecure. Her reaction tells you where she stands. 4. Don't compete for her attention. The worst thing you can do is chase her with more validation in hopes she'll finally notice yours. That puts you in the position of begging for recognition. Don't do it. 5. Decide if it's a deal breaker. Some women eventually grow out of this if they're self-aware and willing to work on their insecurities. But if she's addicted to outside validation, no amount of love from you will ever be enough. At that point, you have to decide if staying is worth the emotional toll. When a woman constantly seeks validation from everyone but you, it's not just about compliments, it's about where her sense of worth truly comes from. And if that worth is built entirely on the outside world, your relationship will always take second place to her need for attention. At its root, love requires security. If she can't find that within herself, and she doesn't trust the validation you give, then she's not ready for a mature relationship. If these signs resonate with you, don't ignore them. Emotional immaturity doesn't fix itself. And if you're constantly pouring from an empty cup, you will eventually run dry. Gentlemen, relationships are supposed to bring peace, growth, and companionship, not constant stress, drama, and emotional chaos. A woman who is emotionally immature may not be a bad person, but she is not yet ready to give you the depth and stability you deserve. And here's the hard truth: love alone is never enough. If she doesn't have the emotional maturity to communicate, to empathize, to be accountable, then your love becomes a one-way street. You end up doing all the heavy lifting, while she remains stuck in the same patterns. That's not partnership, that's parenting. Now, I want you to remember something. It's not your job to fix her. You are not her therapist, her father, or her savior. You are her partner, and that role requires equality. If she cannot meet you halfway, no amount of patience, love, or sacrifice on your part will make her ready. You deserve a woman who sees you, who values you, and who can emotionally stand beside you, not behind you. Don't waste years hoping she will change while your needs, your dreams, and your peace get buried. But if you recognize these signs early, you give yourself the gift of choice. The choice to step back, the choice to set boundaries, or the choice to walk away and wait for the woman who is truly ready. Because when you meet a woman who is emotionally mature, you'll feel the difference instantly. You'll feel supported. You'll feel understood. You'll feel like a man who can finally exhale, knowing you don't have to fight for love, because it's flowing naturally between you. Protect your peace, gentlemen. Your time, your love, and your energy are precious. Don't give them to a woman who isn't ready. Wait for the one who is, because she will make all the difference. If this video spoke to you, then chances are, you're already on a journey of becoming more intentional about the kind of relationships you allow into your life. And I want you to know, that's powerful. If you found value here, do me a favor. Hit that like button, because it helps more men like you find this message. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This is where we talk about the real truths of love, relationships, and the psychology between men and women. And remember, I read your comments. So, let me know below. Have you ever dealt with a woman who showed these signs of emotional immaturity? I'd love to hear your story. Until next time, keep protecting your peace, and keep choosing wisely.